After the temperature dropped, my husband shrank by 5 centimeters. In order to defend that bit of his pitiful self-esteem, he gradually became impatient toward me. As long as I showed even a little bit of desire, he would immediately urge me to wash clothes or cook. Up to now, he has already not shared a bed with me for 2 consecutive months. These 2 months, I became pale and haggard, gloomy, and unhappy. My parents-in-law saw this scene and thought that their son did not like me anymore, so they also began to follow their son and target me everywhere. They did not know that the drop in temperature was not a natural phenomenon, but a sign that the extreme cold apocalypse was about to arrive. In my previous life, I was tortured by them until I went mad, and in the end froze to death alive in the icy snow. I originally thought my life would end here, but when I opened my eyes again, I unexpectedly discovered that I had returned to 1 month before the extreme cold apocalypse. Suddenly opening my eyes, I saw my husband Xingyu standing beside the sofa. "Since you're awake, then hurry up and make the meal. In a while, Mom and Dad should come back." This scene was so familiar. 1 month ago, while I was mopping the floor, my foot slipped, my head hit the corner of the table, and I fainted. Xingyu's expression at this moment was exactly the same as at that time. Seeing that I had no reaction, Xingyu couldn't help but reach out and pull me up from the sofa. "Jiang Ran, look at the clock. It's already 5:11. Mom and Dad will come back at 5:30 to eat. What are you still dawdling for?" After throwing down this command, he went back to the room by himself to play games. Xingyu had worked out for many years. His hand strength was not small. The pain from my arm being pinched just now was extremely real. My heart couldn't help but start pounding, and I hurriedly took out my phone. The date indeed showed it was the weekend from 1 month ago. At this time, a news notification was pushed to my phone. Opening it, it was also content related to a war somewhere, exactly the same as before the apocalypse. Those melodramatic memories poured into my mind. In my previous life, Xingyu was laid off during the wave of layoffs. When looking for a new job, he kept hitting walls everywhere, but he was the only son in a rural family. Once his parents heard that their son was at home, and that I, as the daughter-in-law, was actually not serving their son and still had to go to work and couldn't cook for him, they became furious. They directly packed their things and came to live at my home, under the name of taking care of the 2 of us, but in reality they only turned Xingyu into a complete and utter useless person. Unfortunately, at that time I was trapped by the so-called many years of past affection and did not quickly cut things off. Now, in my heart surged up a feeling like being pardoned. I was reborn. Heaven finally heard my unwillingness and gave me a chance to start over. I looked around the surroundings with attachment. The redwood furniture left by my parents was still intact, not burned away for warmth. Outside the window was also a bright and sunny scene. Looking at the weather app, it showed the current temperature was 47 degrees Celsius. Actually, even in midsummer, this temperature was abnormally high. Therefore, when facing the sudden drop in temperature half a month later, people not only were not alert, but instead showed a bit of joy. When it first cooled down, everyone thought it was the heavens giving a day off, letting people ease a bit in the intense summer heat. But after that day, the temperature could not climb back up anymore. At the beginning it dropped 5 degrees at a time, later it became 10 degrees. Later still, waking up one day, they found that it had snowed in midsummer, and the temperature had already dropped to minus 30 degrees. Only then did people panic. At first, adding a bit more money could still get takeout. Later, everyone developed a sense of crisis, and could only go out to buy things themselves. At that time, I discussed with Xingyu, saying that while we could still go out now, we should go to the supermarket together to buy some supplies. Who knew that my father-in-law and mother-in-law were lying on the door listening? The 2 directly kicked the door open and almost wanted to strangle me while questioning why I wanted to harm their son. "Do you know that in such cold people will die? If you want to go, you go yourself. Let this vicious woman experience what it feels like to freeze to death." I felt extremely wronged, and Xingyu only remained silent. My mother-in-law forcefully pulled me. I couldn't endure it and reached out to resist. Xingyu immediately accused me. "That's my mom. How dare you hit her?" At that moment, I finally woke up. Actually, the change had already been there long ago. From when I registered marriage with Xingyu, from when I complied and brought his parents from the countryside over, maybe from the very beginning it was already wrong. After that, they seemed to have torn off their masks, taking all the thick clothes and thick quilts for themselves, letting me go out in minus 40-something degrees weather to find supplies, while they stayed at home and dismantled wooden furniture to burn for warmth. My hands also developed many frostbites, and the exposed skin on my face was directly cracked by the cold. But once I didn't find supplies, or found too little, lightly I would be scolded, heavily I would be beaten. If I talked back, they would even take off my down jacket and lock me outside the door, until I couldn't take it and begged for mercy. In the end, when it was truly impossible to find supplies and there was nothing to eat, they secretly negotiated with the building tyrant behind my back, wanting to sell me over in exchange for supplies. That day I resisted with all my strength, so they locked me on the balcony outside for a whole day and night, ignoring me. I was frozen to death just like that. I gently wiped away my tears and piled up a smile to face them. Now was not the time to fall out. I smiled and took out my phone. "Dad, Mom, today there is an urgent matter at the factory. I forgot the time. How about this? I'll give you money. You and Xingyu go eat outside. I still have to go back to the factory." As I spoke, my father-in-law's phone notification sounded. He took out his phone, saw the number, and only then smiled. "I will come back later tonight. You all have fun." When my parents died in a car accident, just 3 years after graduating, I forced myself to take over the small factory they left behind. I endured countless days and nights before getting the halted production line back on track. Fortunately, at that time I retained a trace of rationality and did not transfer this only economic source into Qingyu's name. Now, the income from this factory became my confidence. Although I gave them 10,000 yuan for nothing, if you are reluctant to let go of the child, you cannot catch the wolf. I counted the liquid funds in my hands. There was less than 1 million left. Before Qingyu was laid off, the family income was still okay, but this past year was almost entirely living off savings. But adding in the house, car, stocks under my name, and the payments not yet received by the factory, I should still be able to gather some money. After finishing the count, I had to hurry out to handle proper matters. I went to a car rental company and rented a Wuling Hongguang with a huge capacity, then went to a nearby agency company, requesting to sign for a standalone villa that could be moved into immediately, preferably with low occupancy and excellent security. The agent looked at the Wuling Hongguang parked outside, and a very obvious doubt appeared in his eyes. I pushed out an envelope. "Don't worry, it's not illegal. You earn your money. I handle my matters." That person's eyes immediately revealed a sly gleam. "Miss, you really got lucky. There just happens to be such a house right nearby." I nodded and let him get in the car to take me to see the house. Just as I expected, the agent took me straight to a high-end residential project from the same developer. I knew this villa area because it was not far from my home, but precisely because of some feng shui superstition, almost no units were sold. Rich people all believe in feng shui, so it became a locally famous loss-making project. In my previous life, when others were fighting to the death over supplies, this was also a place of deathly silence, perfect for living alone. Within a limited budget, I still wanted to press the price as much as possible. "There's a problem here, right? The price. You have to give me a cheaper one." How would I dare to ask randomly? "Sister, you're someone who understands." Arriving at the garage, he took out the key to open the door and turned sideways to let me enter. "The owner has settled abroad. Hasn't lived here much. The furniture and everything are already made. Outside there is also a yard. The neighbors are also quite far apart. Absolutely quiet." Before entering, I observed the yard at the door. There was land here. If I could build a cold-proof shed, perhaps I could grow vegetables. After entering, I looked around once, knocking here and there to listen to the sound. The furniture was all solid wood, and the window quality was extremely good. What surprised me the most was that there was actually a huge fireplace here. I smiled. The owner had taste.as evening approached. Standing on the terrace and looking outward, I could just see my home at this moment, its window pitch black. I narrowed my eyes. "Let's sign directly for 5 years." The agent was so happy his eyes almost disappeared. After paying the deposit, after the agent left, I inspected the house again and again. This would be my safe haven in the apocalypse. I must be careful. Where needs anti-intrusion protective fences? Where can one person hold the gate against 10,000? I calculated one by one in my mind. However, just when I walked to the staircase on the first floor, I discovered an inconspicuous small door. There was a basement under this house. It seemed the original owner had some sense of crisis, actually building a basement during renovation. The agent clearly did not know about this matter, which meant I had an additional place to hide that no one knew about. The basement was about 120 square meters, fully renovated, with advanced ventilation and air exchange system. Not stuffy at all. At that time I would just need to think of a way to strengthen the insulation layer. The residence was perfect. Next step, begin purchasing goods. The extreme cold descended. I was driven out of the house by my husband's family, and froze to death in the icy snow. But I didn't expect that I would be reborn. Since I already knew the true faces of my husband's family, I would no longer accommodate them. In order to deal with the extreme cold that was about to come, I had already found a place to hide in advance. Next was to purchase a large amount of supplies, driving to the largest warehouse supermarket nearby. In the previous life, in the icy world with scarce food and supplies, I had been hungry for too long. Now, as soon as I entered the supermarket and saw the dazzling array of food, my eyes couldn't help but shine. For stockpiling in the apocalypse, one principle: the shelf life must be long, and the conditions of use must be simple. Instant food and instant noodles were the first choice. I went straight to the warehouse purchasing department, under the name of factory procurement, and asked for 1,000 boxes of instant noodles, 1,000 boxes of fire noodles, 1,000 boxes of self-heating rice noodles. Besides these, nutritional issues must also be considered. Fresh vegetables and fruits were too luxurious. Even buying seeds to cultivate would have very harsh conditions, so some vacuum-packed protein foods had to be stocked more. So chicken wings, chicken legs, chicken feet, duck products, braised eggs. I purchased another 2,000 boxes. Next was the source of life, drinking water. In my previous life, just a few days after the apocalypse began, I died in the ice and snow due to the harm of Qingyu's family. I did not know how long that kind of extreme weather would last. This time, I had the factory secretary Kong Mingming find a German company to customize a batch of square water containers, so that in limited space, the amount of water that could be stored would be maximized. The walls of the basement could be stacked with these purified water containers. If I added a greenhouse and a water storage pool in the yard, it would at least be enough for me alone to use for more than a year. If it really didn't work, the final method would be to purify snow water. Speaking of purifying water, besides water and food, essential medicines must also be prepared. After leaving the supermarket, I drove overnight and went through all the 24-hour pharmacies in the city. Looking at the antibiotics, disinfectants, and external injury bandaging supplies I purchased, for a moment I felt a bit dazed. Actually, before I married Qingyu, I had indeed done rescue volunteering for a period of time. The two of us met during one such activity. The Qingyu of the past was not so selfish and without bottom line. It could only be said that knowing a person's face does not mean knowing their heart. His parents' extremeness, together with the fear of the apocalypse, swallowed his conscience just like that. His true side was released like a beast. Originally, in this life, I could completely have survived the apocalypse together with him. Unfortunately, that Jiang Ran who still had a trace of pity for him had already died, killed by his own hands. A Wuling Hongguang was already stuffed full. Considering the storage space of the villa, I decided that the first batch of purchases would stop here. The physical consumption was too much. I casually bought some long shelf life cakes and bread, stuffed the last 2 empty spaces, then went to a late night eatery and had a good meal before heading back. Returning with a full load, my mood was very good. I drove all the way, whistling. Even if this night was so ordinary, even if the apocalypse was about to come, as long as I was alive, it was good. Driving the car back to the villa, I moved the things batch by batch into the basement, collapsed on the ground looking at a floor full of spoils, and let out a long breath. For prolonged combat, I still needed more supplies. My combat ability alone was really limited. Time left was not much. This house still needed some processing. Just after paying the rent and buying food and medicine, the money in my hands was only a little over 800,000 left. In order to prevent insufficient cash for later renovation, I still decided to mobilize the production capacity of my factory. I silently made made plans in my mind, deciding to first purchase several bows and arrows as weapons. High-quality ones only cost a few thousand yuan, and making arrows was easy to solve. My family's factory was for processing wood. Making a batch of thin sticks in an emergency was very easy. Last month the factory had also brought in a batch of bamboo, planning to make chopsticks. I planned to get some materials out, using bamboo tubes with marbles to make simple firearms. More frightening than the apocalyptic environment was human nature. Finally, there was the house renovation. Adding steel plates inside the house, adding solar energy, indoor insulation boxes, 800,000 was still not enough. While calculating, I actually fell asleep. When I woke up, I was covered in sweat. I forgot to turn on the ventilation in the basement. At this moment, my clothes were soaked with sweat. Looking at the time, it was already past 2 in the morning. I walked out of the basement, carefully pulled open a small gap in the curtain, and found that the lights at home were still on. So I tidied up a bit in the bathroom and drove back home. I could already predict what Qingyu and my parents-in-law's reaction would be. A housewife who was always obedient suddenly disappeared for most of the day. Phone turned off. It was unavoidable to receive a barrage of questioning. Only, they did not know that I was no longer that weak Jiang Ran. After returning home, Qingyu was still wearing headphones playing games, the sound of monsters fighting in the game filling the room. I did not speak to him, just took off my coat and changed shoes by myself. Hearing the sound, Qingyu stopped the game and slammed the controller to the side. Where did you go? Coming back so late, not answering calls. Do you know mom and dad didn't eat dinner? Something at the company. I got busy late. What business needs to be done so late? What big business does your small wood factory have that must be done on a Sunday night? Haha, when you took the money just now, it wasn't this face. In my heart I rolled my eyes to the sky. Before I could speak, Qingyu suddenly threw the phone onto the table. You said you were working overtime. I called your office countless times. No one answered. What kind of overtime were you working? Son, I already said women who show their faces outside are no good. Always saying overtime. Who knows who you're working overtime with, a man or a woman? As soon as Qingyu heard this, his face became even uglier. No wonder before when I worked overtime late, he would only call to show concern, but never came to pick me up. It turned out it was just to check on me. Looking at the three of them sitting together on the sofa, their expressions exactly the same kind of disgusting. Doing business. Naturally it's either with women or with men. What? If I don't go talk business, will you go, Qingyu? Also, Mom, didn't you say when you came that you were here to take care of the two of us? I won't trouble you then, but from now on when I'm not at home, I'll have to trouble you to cook for your son. After all, those hands of his only know how to play games. After marriage, I had always maintained an attitude of family harmony, and was quite respectful to my parents-in-law. But now I was tired. If it weren't to smoothly stockpile supplies, I wouldn't bother dealing with the three of them at all. They did not expect that I, who had always been respectful and obedient, would actually dare to speak wildly. My mother-in-law couldn't help but stand up, pointing at me and scolding. Did you hook up with some rich man? You actually dare to talk like this. Fine, now you finally admit that you're not clean outside. Back then if it weren't for my son, you, a woman with no parents, who else would want you? Before the old woman could finish speaking, the bag in my hand smashed onto her face. Don't even look at what kind of thing you are, daring to talk about me. Without my parents, your son could live so comfortably, eating and waiting to die at home. Mom, she fell into her son's arms, trembling non-stop. My father-in-law also stood up, pointing at me with a shaking hand. What kind of thing is your son, don't you know? Back then when you found me, wasn't it just because you saw I had money and wanted to eat an extinct household? I directly exposed their little thoughts. My mother-in-law trembled in Qingyu's arms, screaming ah. Too lazy to deal with them, I turned around, went back to my room, and locked the door. The apocalypse was still 29 days away. Don't expect me to spoil you anymore. Qingyu's family cried and made a fuss until the middle of the night. I wore earplugs and slept very well. When I woke up, it was Monday. When I packed up and prepared to go out, Qingyu was sleeping soundly on the sofa. My parents-in-law were also not awake because they had made trouble too late. I quietly went out. One more day closer to the cooling date, the string in my mind tightened more and more. I had to first go to the factory to handle the most important matters, collecting payments and contacting construction teams. As soon as I entered the office, I went straight to the computer and opened Excel. I first sorted out yesterday's purchase list, then listed storage needs from clothing, food, housing, and transportation, checking for omissions. First was housing. House renovation would take time. I must contact teams today to enter the site and start work. Fortunately, when the factory dismantled the production line, several construction teams' contact information had been left. To prevent my renovation information from being leaked, I found several different teams, each doing a part. As long as they couldn't piece the information together, I would be safe. Thinking this, I immediately started making calls, claiming it was a friend's house needing office space renovation and I was introducing them. I transferred 50,000 yuan as deposit and told them to hurry and enter the site in the afternoon. Large machinery and bulk purchases required more cash. I didn't care about rise or fall. I directly sold all the stocks in my hand. Next, I contacted the agency company, listing several cars under my personal name and 2 properties in other places for sale, only keeping 1 SUV, preparing to send it to a 4S shop for reinforcement modification. Then I sent a message in the work group, requiring all persons in charge to recover payments owed by other factories within 1 week, calculating 40% of recovered funds as personal bonus. As soon as this was said, several salespeople became excited, replying received one after another. The fast ones had already gone out. Calculating carefully, I could still recover about another 1 million. The renovation money should be enough. In the afternoon, I first brought the first construction team to the house, communicating the renovation direction with them, mainly adding fences and barbed wire outside, to be completed in 2 days. The second construction team received information to replace everything with bulletproof glass, to be completed within 5 days. The third construction team brought insulation coatings and indoor fireproof facilities. The fourth construction team added steel plates inside the walls and converted the garage into storage space, both fireproof and anti-toxic. The renovations were all in minimalist style. Even so, after finishing, I wouldn't have much money left. I had to use it more reasonably. reasonably. After settling the workers, I rented a warehouse near the villa as a transit station for supplies. Then, with the list, I directly went to Clothing City, Furniture City, and Appliance City, straight to the largest store, asking the store manager to prepare goods according to the list within 3 days and deliver them to the warehouse. Goose down jackets, cold-proof clothing, I wanted them all. Self-heating equipment, I bought by the ton. Solar panels, I installed 6 on the roof. Better to die of heat than freeze to death. After finishing everything, it was already 5 in the afternoon. During rush hour, I sat in the car, exhausted and breathing heavily. There must still be some gaps in the list. I had to think carefully again, trying to be foolproof. Looking at myself in the rearview mirror, face flushed with exhaustion, I suddenly realized my physical condition had become worse over the years due to being busy with work. Right, by some fitness equipment. In the apocalypse, strengthening the body to deal with unknown dangers, I went again to the sports equipment city, ordered dumbbells of different weights, an elliptical machine, a cage rack and other fitness equipment, requiring the seller to deliver them to the garage. The seller was quite kind and gave me a women's fitness complete book, which had corresponding muscle positions and training methods inside, quite practical. This reminded me, when the weather is freezing, without electricity and without internet, I can only rely on reading books for some pastime. So I went to the bookstore again, bought several hundred books of all kinds, various types, and different subjects, and directly asked the staff to put them into the trunk. After all this running around, the time had already passed 7. I first ate a meal outside, then went home well fed. Opening the door, Qingyu's family of 3 were sitting at the dining table happily eating hot pot. Seeing me come back, all 3 faces dropped. Ran, yesterday you contradicted mom. If you apologize today, I will pursue it. Son, she not only hit me, she also said you were useless. How can we just let it go? Yes, how can we just let it go? Qingyu, let's get a divorce. Ran, you. I took out the divorce agreement from my bag and threw it onto the table. Don't rush to refuse. After being with me for so long, I won't treat you unfairly. Divorce, this house goes to you. I'll only take the furniture my parents left. Impossible. My mother-in-law stopped Qingyu, her eyes rolling. Divorce is fine, but besides this house, give another 1 million as compensation. Compensation? It's already good I'm not asking you for mental damage compensation these past years. The car stays for you. Having more house and home is useless. I'm going on a business trip soon. Qingyu, I'll give you 3 days. Think it through and call me. After saying this, without waiting for their reply, I returned to the room, packed some clothes and daily necessities, dragged my suitcase and left. I first went to the supermarket, putting whatever I wanted into the cart. At checkout, again it was 2 carts full. Parking the car into the villa's garage, it was already a bit late when I got back. Because of fear that night construction would be reported, the construction teams had already stopped work at 8. I checked the progress. It was not bad. At this speed, it would be completed within 10 days. I took a nice shower, very comfortable. After the shower, I looked at myself in the full-length mirror. Clearly, I had money and looks. I really couldn't understand why my past self was willing to stay with such a man and live like that for 3 full years. It seemed that women in love are truly blind. Even trash can be beautified into clean energy, truly lard covering the heart. The next day, I brought a roughly completed plan into the office. Secretary Kong Ying immediately brought me a glass of water. I asked her to go out and calculate yesterday's recovered payments, and according to what I said yesterday, calculate personal performance, and pay the bonuses all at once after 1 week. After finishing the morning work, while eating lunch, calls came one after another, saying that the goods I ordered from various wholesale markets had arrived. So I wolfed down a few bites, sent a message to Kong Ying saying I would go to Hainan on a business trip in the afternoon and return in 3 days, then hurried to the warehouse. 3 days should be enough for me to sort these supplies. At the warehouse entrance, several trucks were already waiting. I quickly opened the door to let them unload. What are you preparing to do? Buying so many things. Company is going on a team building trip to the mountains in a few days, bringing some things. Box after box moved. When the last box of rice was moved into the warehouse, the sunset was almost setting. I took out my phone and saw several missed calls, from Qingyu and from Kong Ying. I immediately called Kong Ying back. What's wrong? Ranjia, just now brother-in-law came to the company looking for you. I told him you went on a business trip to Hainan. He didn't believe it and made trouble for quite a while before leaving. It's fine, I'll call him myself later. Ranjia, are you two okay? It's fine, couples arguing is normal. After hanging up, the trucks had all left, leaving me alone in the large warehouse. Looking at the supplies all over the floor, I suddenly considered the placement issue. I couldn't just leave them on the ground, so I immediately moved several boxes into the trunk, locked the warehouse, and went straight to the building materials market. I chose sturdy tall shelves, ordered 4 rows according to the basement size, added 10,000 yuan, and required delivery to the warehouse by tomorrow afternoon. On the way home, passing by the car rental shop, I chose a small truck, agreeing with the boss to deliver it near the villa at 8 in the evening. After paying the deposit, I drove back toward the villa. The sunset was beautiful. The summer breeze also had a different flavor. With sufficient supplies, the coming days were also worth looking forward to. My depressed mood was relieved at this moment. And the following days, I rested during the day and went out at night. I stayed in a hotel for a few days. During the day I rested, and at night after the construction teams got off work, I took advantage of the night to drive the rented small truck, moving the supplies batch by batch into the basement. I didn't even dare to turn on the lights, because in the middle of the night, even a little light would be noticeable. During the day I stayed in the hotel checking for omissions and filling in some small missing items. Because the basement was already good enough, I did not ask the construction teams to renovate it, and I didn't even tell them about the existence of this basement. I only bought some soundproof cotton and steel plates myself, planning to use them later to block some gaps. I went to the gas station again and filled up a full tank, then went back to the warehouse and siphoned the gasoline out. Looking at the 5 large barrels of gasoline placed on the warehouse floor, I felt more and more satisfied the more I looked at them. With this gasoline, not only could I use a generator, I could also make torches for self-defense. Very good, but it was still not enough. I still needed to store more. Therefore, even though all my supplies had already been moved into the basement, basement, I did not return the small truck. Instead, I extended the rental for a few more days. Moving things was also physical labor. After consuming energy heavily, I replenished it heavily, holding on to the principle of eating as much as possible of what I liked before society shut down due to the big temperature drop. During the day I ordered takeout, and at night I ate late night meals. After 3 days passed, when I returned to the company, Kong Ying was surprised. "Rand, yeah, it seems your business trip these days had good food. Your face has become rounder." I just smiled and asked her to send out a meeting notice. Tomorrow would be Friday. By next week, the cold wave would arrive. Although my warm little nest had basically been built, acting still had to be complete. After work, I still had to return to that home. Returning home, facing the three faces, the parents-in-law naturally had ugly expressions. "Why did you come back so late? Working overtime. So, have you thought it through? What matter?" The parents-in-law were anxious and kept giving signals with their eyes. "Before your business trip, you said you would give 3 days to consider the divorce. Now time is up." Qingyu opened his mouth but did not speak. I took out 2 copies of the divorce agreement from my bag. "If you really don't want to, it's also fine. I'll move out. You can stay in the house. After 2 years of separation, I'll hire a lawyer to sue and strive for a one-time divorce." I went back to the room, took a bigger suitcase, filled it with my things, and turned to leave. When the elevator went down to the basement level, I ran into an acquaintance, the building tyrant. In my previous life, when there was a shortage of clothing and food, he pretended to be property management, knocked on many people's doors, and violently collected their supplies. After a long time, he also gathered a group of followers. Relying on numbers, they became more and more unscrupulous, and later simply committed all kinds of evil. I suppressed my discomfort and took out my phone, pretending to make a call. "Hello, Xiao Zhao. Just deliver those things directly to my home. When we go for team building next weekend, I'll bring them directly." "Yes, 1001. Remember it well. Don't send to the wrong door." 1001. "Yes, a pile of bread, instant noodles, self-heating hot pot." Only after hearing the elevator door close did I let out a breath. The extreme cold would arrive next Friday. I believed that this building tyrant would definitely not disappoint me. The next morning in the company meeting room, I announced that starting next week there would be a long holiday, and asked the finance department to calculate everyone's performance and salary during this period, to be paid before leaving work. With money to take and holiday to have, and the job would not be lost, most people were quite satisfied. After finishing the last half day of work, they happily went home. Seeing people gradually leave, I called Kong Ying into my office and handed her a thick envelope. "Ying, you've worked hard during this period. Besides work matters, my family matters also troubled you. You are also a member of our factory. There's no reason others get bonuses and you don't. Take this back and have a good rest. Remember, listen to me, buy more food." Then I went to the factory warehouse, moved the prepared wooden sticks and several bamboo guns onto the truck, and turned to the 4S shop to pick up my reinforced SUV. After that, I first went to inspect the villa. The renovation work had entered the final stage and would be completely finished the day after tomorrow. After the construction teams left, I checked the supplies again. Clothing, food, housing, transportation, everything was complete. The quantity was enough for me to stay here for a year without problem. Next, it was time to go back and say goodbye to those 3 ungrateful wolves. Returning home, I was greeted by silence. If not for the 3 dark figures sitting on the sofa, I would have thought no one was home. Qingyu stood up and handed me the divorce agreement. It had already been signed and fingerprinted. My mother-in-law let out a cold snort. I didn't care. I took out a pen from my bag, quickly signed my name, and handed 1 copy back to Qingyu. "Congratulations. Tomorrow I'll come move my things." My mood was unprecedentedly relaxed. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. I called a moving company to help. I took out all the thick quilts in the house and said to Qingyu, "These quilts were bought by me as part of my dowry back then. I'll take them. You don't mind, right? You take them. Who cares about your lousy quilts? Son, Mom will buy you new ones later." I smiled, continuing to pack things. Inside the quilts, I stuffed all the down jackets in the house, making sure everything was loaded onto the truck. Just in case, I had the moving company first put the things into the warehouse, then I would transfer them myself to the villa later. But my parents' set of redwood furniture was too heavy, so I had to change to another moving team and let them send it directly into the villa. After everything was settled, I began to supplement the final personal safety supplies. According to the list I made yesterday, I started purchasing battery-free pinhole cameras. Buy more. Both indoors and outdoors must be monitored. Axes, ice picks, and other close combat cold weapons. If my previous defense lines were all broken through, these would be used. Electric heaters with small stoves. Buy. Large plastic bags. Buy. Cold-proof cloth. Buy. Water purifiers. Buy. Right. Also sanitary pads. Buy. After the renovation was completed, in the following days, I began to arrange my little nest. Although the house had been fully reinforced, the principle I set for myself was, if I could avoid going out of the basement, then do not go out of the basement. Especially in the later stage when people would begin to violate social order for food and become inhuman, I must minimize exposing my existence. Therefore, I arranged all supplies step by step into the basement. The ground level, except for installing a few cameras, I hadn't even wiped the dust for a long time. I deliberately made things messy, just to create the appearance of an uninhabited empty house. In fact, in my basement, there was a bed, a sofa, a stove, and supplies. To save space, the place for sleeping was a 1.2-meter mattress placed in the corner. But to keep that tiny bit of life atmosphere, I changed into a very warm-colored light yellow silk bedding set and bought several plush toys to place on the bed. This only trace of warm color was probably the only spiritual comfort I had left in the apocalypse. Seeing that in these 2 days the temperature had begun to drop, the extreme cold had already started to warn. Only, most people were still like in the previous life, immersed in the rare coolness within the intense summer. Taking advantage of the final time, I collected some more gasoline. In the end, there were 8 barrels, all placed in the farthest corner of the basement, far away from my supplies. To prevent accidents, I also prepared several fire extinguishers, then contacted someone to buy a pile of firewood, stacking them neatly against the wall. Bought some seeds, bought some yarn, several puzzles, for pastime. Although I bought many power banks and downloaded many games and shows on the iPad, watching uses up power little by little. Even with a generator, it must be used sparingly. No longer could I recklessly hold my phone like now, just take this time to satisfy my hobbies. Before, besides work was family. Many things I had to compromise and give in. This time, I would live for myself. When the first snowflake fell from the sky, it was 2 in the morning. At this time, many people were asleep, and many were still staying up. The internet began to become lively. After half an hour, the topic, snow in August, rushed to the trending list. Some people cheered, some were surprised, some were worried. For a moment, many different voices appeared. I created a small account and silently scrolled through the comments. I saw one asking whether everyone needed to stock supplies. Most of the replies below were mocking. I typed in the comment section, if the blogger thinks their concern is correct, there's no need to care about others' voices and just do it. If it's false, at most you waste a bit of money. After posting this comment, I yawned, plugged in my phone to charge, and slept beautifully. The next day when I woke up, the snow was heavier than at night. There was already a thin layer of snow on the ground. The weather forecast on my phone showed the temperature at this time was 0 degrees, while the thermometer on the basement wall showed 18 degrees. After washing up, I first made myself a cup of hot milk, paired with soft milk toast. My phone rang. It was Qingyu. Ran, where did you put the down jackets at home? Why is there only one left? Those were all bought by me. Isn't it normal that I took them? Oh right, you said there's still one left. Then I'll gift that one to you. After speaking, I hung up and immediately blocked his number. After cleaning up the tableware, I wore my soft fluffy home clothes and lay down, scrolling on the iPad for a while. There were more and more posts online about stockpiling supplies. It seemed that many people had begun to become alert. There were also many people taking this opportunity to go out to play in the snow and have snowball fights. After all, our place was in the south, and snowfall was quite rare. Right now, there was still water, electricity, and gas. Social order had not yet fallen into chaos. Therefore, although some people felt panic, more people were happy. It just seemed that everyone had forgotten that it was currently August. This kind of joy did not last long. By the next day, it had already turned into heavy snow. In just one day, the snow on the ground reached 20 to 30 centimeters thick, and the temperature also dropped to minus 15 degrees. There were more and more complaints online. Some complained that companies did not issue holiday notices, but encouraged employees not to go to work, using their own annual leave to offset. Some said that overnight, all the water pipes at home were frozen. In such cold weather, even wearing down jackets and turning on air conditioning was useless. Some posted the situation in supermarkets. Even though it was so cold outside, the supermarkets were still crowded with people, sweeping goods into their carts without thinking. Some began to regret not stocking supplies earlier. While I was scrolling, I saw someone post that they had just grabbed a cart full of supplies. The comment section was full of envy. I admired this person. Now the internet shows IP addresses. Aren't they afraid that someone with bad intentions might actually track them down and rob them? Today was the 10th day of heavy snow. There was no sign of it getting smaller. The snow on the road had already reached 50 centimeters. The temperature dropped sharply, and it also became dark earlier. It was only 5 in the afternoon, yet it was already starting to get dim. I cooked myself a pot of rich pork rib soup. While drinking the soup, my phone received a message. It was Kong Ying. Ranjia. Luckily I listened to you and bought some supplies from those suppliers. Otherwise my parents and I would be finished. Haha, that's quite coincidental. How much did you buy? Is it enough? Enough for half a year, no problem. At first my parents thought I bought too much. Now they keep praising me. I gave Kong Ying a few more instructions, then put down the phone. I peacefully passed a few more days. The snow outside became thicker, and online there were more complaints and panic. Some areas began to risk trekking through the blizzard to go to supermarkets to buy food. In videos posted online, some people even fought over a small pack of biscuits. After another half month, the snow had reached 70 to 80 centimeters thick. The temperature had already reached minus 50 degrees. At this time, electricity had not yet been cut off. I could still use the radiator for heating. When electricity was cut off, the heater I bought would come in handy. At that time, cooking a hot pot would be extremely wonderful. Looking at the basement full of supplies, I suddenly felt what security meant. Clothing, food, shelter, heating, everything was complete. Life was empty, so I exercised and read. If I got sick or injured, I had medicine. As time went on, the snow became thicker and thicker, gradually accumulating to over 1 meter. The temperature also dropped to minus 70 degrees. Online content began to become heavy. Every day I could see people freezing to death on the roadside. The basement also began to feel a trace of cold. I started strictly carrying out daily fitness plans. Sufficient muscle could better maintain body function. Of course, I also ate more. Fortunately, I had stocked enough food. After this period of eating well and training well, muscle lines had already begun to appear on my body. In the remaining time, I began conquering 1,000-piece puzzles and other handicrafts, occasionally reading books, taking the opportunity to catch up on shows I had always wanted to watch. It must be said, the small days were extremely comfortable. When half a year passed, the thermometer could no longer detect the current temperature. The basement had also become like an ice cellar. After observing for a week, I began to use the wood stove, connecting the ventilation pipe, filling the furnace with firewood. When the flame started burning, a sacred sense of happiness arose in my heart. I laid thick blankets on the ground and lay beside the stove. The firelight baked my face red. It was very happy. In the 3rd year of the blizzard, the snow stopped. After the sun came out, the temperature rose quickly. In half a month, it had already reached 16 degrees, and the snow on the ground gradually melted. Winter passed and spring came. The signal recovered 1 week after the snow completely melted. On the internet, the surviving people were sighing with the joy of surviving a disaster. I finally could walk out of the house and enjoy this precious sunlight. Society began to resume normal operation. Personnel came to count the surviving population. In such a large residential complex, only more than 10 people remained. Fortunately, everything had passed.